Welcome to this deep dive. It's all about what it really takes to make it on YouTube in 2025.
Yeah.
We've got Kevin Brake's latest research, what we all need to know about YouTube in 2025. We've also got some really fascinating insights from Google's Why We Watch 2.0 report.
Yeah.
And all of this is going to reveal some surprising things about how viewers are actually defining quality these days and why that matters more than ever if you're a creator.
You know what's so striking to me? It's that the old playbook of just like focusing on high production value just doesn't cut it anymore. Viewers today, they're looking for something more.
Yeah, it's a total shift, right? I remember
Yep.
when everyone thought the key was just like fancy equipment and that was all you needed.
Yeah.
But Google's research actually found that less than 1% of viewers today consider visuals as the only marker of good content.
Exactly. And there's a really fascinating reason behind this shift. The report connects it to this broader societal trend. People are really craving authentic connection, especially in a digital world that can often feel superficial.
That makes so much sense. It's like we're all craving more genuine interactions online,
Yeah.
not just these perfectly polished presentations.
Right. And YouTube has become this unique space where viewers can actually find that authenticity and build real relationships with creators.
Which is such a departure from traditional media, right? Where there's
Right.
this huge wall between the people making the content and the people consuming it.
Exactly. Just think about it. Back in the day, viewers could never tell, like a TV network executive, what they thought of a show, right? But on YouTube, that feedback loop is built right in. Creators can respond to comments. They can even take suggestions, even collaborate with viewers on content.
So it's like this constant back and forth. There's this sense of co-creation that viewers just can't get anywhere else.
It is, and it's a huge part of why people are finding YouTube so compelling, the sense that their voice actually matters and that they're part of a community.
And speaking of community, there's actually this study that looked at how this whole idea of viewer investment plays out in the YouTube experience. It's called the IKEA effect.
Oh, yeah. I love this one.
Can you break that down for us? I think I've heard of it, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
It's a really cool psychological concept. Basically, it means we tend to value things more when we've put effort into them, like assembling IKEA furniture, right?
Yeah.
And this actually applies to YouTube, too. Viewers, they feel a stronger sense of ownership and satisfaction when they've actually curated their viewing experience.
So it's not just about passively watching whatever pops up. It's about actively choosing channels, engaging in comments, building that personalized feed.
Right. And Google actually conducted an experiment to test this out. They had people create new YouTube accounts, and initially, their experiences weren't as positive. It's like they were wandering around this giant furniture store with no map.
Right.
But as they started subscribing to channels, liking videos, and just basically personalizing their accounts, their satisfaction with YouTube skyrocketed.
Because now they're walking into their perfectly designed living room, so to speak. It's tailored to their tastes and preferences.
Exactly. And this ties in perfectly with Kevin Brake's work. He talks about how creators can tap into this by encouraging viewers to invest more deeply in their channels.
And he gives some really specific strategies for this, right?
He does. Things like creating content that actually invites discussion, running polls and Q&As, highlighting viewer contributions, really fostering that sense of co-creation.
Which in turn strengthens the bond between creators and viewers.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the most fascinating things about YouTube, especially when you compare it to traditional media, is the collaborative relationship between creators and their audiences. It's totally unique to this platform.
Yeah, you don't really see viewers feeling like they have that same level of influence over what's happening on cable TV, do you?
Not at all. It's a totally different dynamic. In fact, the Why We Watch 2.0 report found that a whopping 74% of viewers in Italy believe their viewing choices directly influence the content creators make. That's huge.
It's amazing. They feel like they're part of this creative conversation, not just passive consumers. And it's not just limited to the content itself. It even extends to how they view advertising.
Oh, that's right. Viewers are way more tolerant of ads on YouTube, even prefer them in some cases when they feel those ads are directly supporting creators they love or causes they care about. It's this sense of shared purpose that traditional media just can't replicate.
So it's clear this emotional connection is like a driving force on YouTube. But I know there's also a really cool neuroimaging study that literally shows how authenticity lights up viewers' brains. What's going on there?
This study is fascinating. They used fMRI to actually measure brain activity while people watched YouTube videos. And what they found was that certain emotions like happiness, inspiration, and even that feeling of being informed were linked to specific patterns of brain activation.
So we can literally see what's happening in people's brains when they're engaging with YouTube content. That's wild.
It is. But here's the really interesting part. The study found that these emotional responses were even stronger, literally more intense, when viewers were watching creators they considered authentic and relatable. It's almost like their brains are saying, hey, this person's the real deal, pay attention.
Which brings us right back to Kevin Brake's insights on building authentic connections. He stresses that in 2025, this is the key differentiator for creators. What are some of the practical tips he offers?
Well, he really dives deep into this idea of showing your human side, being vulnerable and not being afraid to share your passions and even your struggles. It's about letting viewers see the person behind the content.
And that can be tough, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a world where it's so easy to get caught up in presenting this perfect online persona.
It can be. But ultimately, viewers can spot inauthenticity a mile away. They're craving genuine connection, and that comes from being real, even when it's messy. It's about letting those imperfections show through. That's what makes you relatable, what makes people feel like they can trust you.
It's interesting because it seems like there's this delicate balance for creators to strike. You want to be authentic and relatable, but not overshare to the point where it becomes detrimental.
That's a great point, and it's something Kevin Brake actually touches on in his research. He cautions against falling into the trap of trying to be too relatable to the point where you compromise your boundaries or share things that might actually harm your brand in the long run.
So it's not just about throwing everything out there. It's about being strategic and mindful about what you choose to share.
Exactly. It's about being authentic to yourself, your values, and your brand. And on the flip side, it's equally important for viewers to be discerning about who they choose to follow and trust.
Because as we've been discussing, authenticity is powerful, but it can also be manipulated.
Unfortunately, that's true. There will always be those who try to exploit that desire for connection for their own gain. That's why it's crucial for viewers to develop those critical thinking skills, to be able to spot the difference between genuine authenticity and something that feels manufactured.
So how can we do that? What are some red flags viewers should watch out for?
One thing Kevin Brake suggests is paying attention to consistency. Does the creator's message align with their actions? Are they walking the walk, so to speak? Another thing to consider is how they interact with their audience. Do they engage in genuine conversation, or do their responses feel scripted and impersonal?
Those are some great points. It's about looking beyond the surface and really paying attention to the details.
Exactly. And when you find those creators who are the real deal, who are genuinely passionate about what they do, and who are committed to building a genuine connection with their audience, it's incredibly rewarding.
So now that we've unpacked this idea of authenticity and why it matters so much on YouTube, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the future of the platform. Where do you see things headed in 2025 and beyond?
Well, based on all the trends we've been discussing, I think it's safe to say that authenticity will only become more important in the years to come.
It's not just a fad, it's a fundamental shift in how we connect and consume content online.
Exactly. And I think we'll see that reflected in the types of content that succeed on YouTube. We'll see a continued move away from highly produced impersonal content and towards something more raw, more real, more reflective of the human experience.
And that opens up so many exciting possibilities. It levels the playing field for creators who might not have access to big budgets or fancy equipment, but who have powerful stories to share and genuine connections to make.
Precisely. And it allows viewers to connect with a wider range of voices and perspectives, which enriches the entire YouTube ecosystem.
It's almost like we're moving away from this one-size-fits-all model of content creation and embracing something more personalized, more human.
And that's really what YouTube is all about, isn't it? It's about connecting with people who share your passions, learning from each other, and building communities around shared interests.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. And speaking of community, there's one point from the Why We Watch 2.0 report that I found really intriguing, and I'd love to get your take on it.
Okay, I'm all ears.
The report briefly mentions that younger viewers in particular tend to find digital-first platforms like YouTube more trustworthy than traditional broadcast media. I'm curious what you think that is.
That's a great question. It definitely challenges the traditional assumptions about media credibility, doesn't it?
It does. You'd think that with all the concerns about misinformation online, younger generations would be more skeptical of digital platforms.
You would, but I think there are a few factors at play here. First, I think it's important to remember that younger generations have grown up with the internet. It's their native environment, and they're more adept at navigating its complexities than older generations.
They've developed a sort of digital literacy that allows them to discern credible sources from less reliable ones.
Exactly. They're not just passively consuming information, they're actively evaluating it, cross-referencing it, and forming their own conclusions.
So they're not necessarily more trusting of digital platforms as a whole, they're just more discerning about which sources within those platforms they deem trustworthy.
Right. And I think another factor is the perceived authenticity of YouTube creators. As we've been discussing, authenticity breeds trust. When young viewers see creators being open and honest about their experiences, sharing their vulnerabilities, and are engaging in genuine dialogue with their audience, it creates a sense of trust that they might not feel with more traditional media outlets, which can often feel distant and impersonal.
It's like they're getting information from a friend rather than a faceless corporation.
Precisely. And I think that personal connection plays a huge role in how younger generations evaluate information. They're looking for sources they can relate to, sources that feel authentic and trustworthy, and they're finding that on YouTube.
So while it's crucial to be mindful of the potential for misinformation on any platform, it's also important to recognize that YouTube can be a powerful tool for education and connection, especially for younger generations.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that balance between being critical consumers of information and embracing the positive aspects of these digital platforms.
Well said. And speaking of positive aspects, one thing I really appreciate about Kevin Brake's work is his emphasis on the importance of emotional intelligence for YouTube's success. He talks about how creators need to be able to understand and respond to the emotional needs of their audience.
That's so important. It's not just about creating content, it's about creating a connection.
Exactly. It's about understanding what your audience is feeling, what they're looking for, and how you can create content that resonates with them on an emotional level.
And that takes empathy, self-awareness, and the ability to communicate effectively. It's about building relationships, not just racking up views.
And that's something that traditional media often overlooks. It's so focused on the metrics, on the numbers, that it loses sight of the human element.
But on YouTube, that human element is everything.
It is. And I think that's why we're seeing this shift toward authenticity and emotional connection. People are craving something more meaningful, more fulfilling, more human in their online interactions.
I couldn't agree more. It's a really exciting time to be part of this evolution.
It is. And as we wrap up this part of our discussion, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question. We've talked a lot about how viewers can discern authentic creators from those who might be faking it.
Right. It's about looking for those telltale signs of genuine passion and connection.
Exactly. But I think it's equally important for creators to be discerning about their audience.
That's an interesting perspective. I'd love to hear more.
What goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the IKEA effect and the importance of viewer investment. I think it's crucial for creators to ask themselves, am I attracting an audience that genuinely connects with my message and values?
Instead of just chasing numbers and trying to appeal to everyone, it's about finding your tribe, so to speak.
Exactly. It's about building a community that is aligned with your vision, your goals, and your values.
Because when you have that alignment, when you have a group of people who are truly invested in what you're creating, that's when the real magic happens.
It's more than just views and subscribers at that point. It's about building something meaningful, something that has a lasting impact.
And that's what true success on YouTube looks like in 2025 and beyond.
Beautifully said. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, but before we move on to the final part of our conversation, I want to pause for a moment and touch on a key aspect of YouTube's success that we haven't addressed yet.
Okay, what's that?
It's the concept of intentionality.
Ah, yes. That's a big one.
It is. And I think it's particularly relevant in the context of authenticity and emotional connection.
How so?
Well, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of content creation, trying to keep up with the latest trends and algorithms. But I think it's crucial for creators to step back and ask themselves, why am I doing this? What is my purpose? What do I want to achieve with my channel?
Because if you don't have a clear sense of purpose, it's easy to get lost in the noise, to start chasing metrics instead of meaning.
Exactly. And I think that lack of intentionality can show through in your content. It can make it feel forced, inauthentic, even manipulative.
So it's not just about being authentic, it's about being authentically you.
Yes. It's about aligning your content with your values, your passions, and your unique perspective.
And when you do that, when your content comes from a place of genuine purpose, it resonates with viewers on a much deeper level.
It's like they can sense your authenticity, your passion, your why. And that's what makes them want to connect with you, to join your community, to be part of your journey.
It's about creating something more than just entertainment. It's about creating an experience, a movement, a shared sense of purpose.
Beautifully put. And I think that's a perfect segue into the final part of our conversation, where we'll explore some practical strategies for creators to bring this intentionality to life in their content.
I'm excited to dive into that. There are so many creative and impactful ways to infuse your content with purpose and connect with your audience on a deeper level.
I completely agree. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and unpack some of those strategies.
All right, so we've established that intentionality is key for YouTube success in 2025.
Yeah, but how can creators actually put this into practice? It can feel a bit abstract, right?
It can, totally. But luckily, Kevin Brake offers some really concrete tips in his research.
Right.
One of the things he really emphasizes is the importance of defining your niche.
Uh-huh.
Instead of trying to be everything to everyone, focus on what you're truly passionate about and what you can uniquely offer to the world.
Right. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions intersect with your audience's interests.
Exactly. And once you've defined your niche, Brake suggests creating a content pillar strategy.
Have you heard of this?
I have, but I think a refresher is always good.
Okay, yeah. So essentially, it's about identifying 3 to 5 core themes or topics that will form the foundation of your content.
Okay.
Yeah, these pillars should be broad enough to encompass a variety of video ideas, but specific enough to give your channel a clear focus. Okay, I like that.
Think of them as the supporting beams of your YouTube house.
Great analogy.
Thanks.
And Brake suggests making sure those pillars are aligned with your overall purpose and your target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. He also talks about the importance of consistency,
Yes.
not just in terms of uploading regularly, but also in terms of your message and your brand identity.
Right.
Viewers are more likely to subscribe and engage with channels that feel cohesive and trustworthy.
Right, because that consistency comes from having a clear intention behind your content.
Exactly.
You know what you want to achieve, and you're creating content that supports that goal.
Yeah. And speaking of goals, Brake encourages creators to set specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals for their channels.
Yes, so smart.
This helps you stay focused and track your progress.
Right.
Yeah. And it ensures that your content is working towards something tangible.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in vanity metrics like views and subscribers, but ultimately, success on YouTube should be defined by how well you're achieving your goals.
So true.
Yeah, whether that's building a community, educating your audience, or driving sales for your business.
Right, whatever it is that matters to you.
Exactly. And I think that's what sets Kevin Brake's approach apart.
Yes.
It's not just about gaming the algorithm, it's about creating something meaningful and sustainable.
It's about building a channel that's a true reflection of you, your passions, and your purpose.
Exactly. And that's what will resonate with viewers in 2025 and beyond.
Absolutely. It's about creating content that matters, content that makes a difference, content that connects with people on a deeper level.
And when you do that, the algorithm will take care of itself.
Yes.
Because people will naturally want to share your content, engage with it, and become a part of your community.
It's the power of authenticity and intentionality in action.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really empowering message for creators.
It is. It means that success on YouTube is within reach for anyone who's willing to put in the work, be themselves, and create content that truly matters.
I agree.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into YouTube success.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody.
We hope you found this exploration insightful and inspiring.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
So leave a comment below and let us know what resonated with you.
Yeah, we'll be sure to check out the comments and engage with you there.
And if you're interested in learning more about Kevin Brake's work, we'll include a link to his website in the show notes.
Absolutely. And you can also find links to the Google research we discussed and other helpful resources.
Until next time, happy YouTubing.
Keep creating and keep connecting.